Like people don't not like you because you're black and because you're goth, because you're alternative, because you're nerdy, because you like anime. It's because you're crusty. You feel like you can finally fit in and you can finally be a part of the club, that you can finally be goth enough. And there's literally no such thing. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, but there's no such thing as goth or alternative dysmorphia. Hi, my name is Ellen. I'm an artist. Today I'm doing a get ready with me style video. Welcome back to my channel. If you have been here for a while, welcome if you are new. Today is a makeup get ready with me style video while I talk about something that's kind of trending online. So right now on TikTok, there is this trend called the propaganda trend, where people are making videos that are like propaganda that I'm not falling for. And it's not anything like serious in terms of like anything political or whatever that's going on for the most part. It's like different people from different subcultures and different genres talking about different propaganda that they're not falling for. Like, for an example, I can say propaganda that I'm not falling for as a makeup girl is that there's a such thing as blush blindness, that there is a such thing as putting on too dark of a lipstick. I'm not falling for the propaganda that you can't wear dark lipstick with a dark eye. I'm not falling for the propaganda of clean girl aesthetic. You know, people are making videos like that. And I made a few of my own. And then there's a few people in the goth community that are making their own propaganda that I'm not falling for as a goth. And I made a few of these, but I wanted to make a longer video for you guys while doing makeup. Propaganda that I'm not falling for as a goth, in no particular order, is that goth is for teens. That, you know, if you're above the age of 25, you don't need to be goth. It's immature. You need to hang it up. You need to like start, you know, like toning down and like melting into like more of a normal person. There are goth people that have been around since the original goth movement in the 80s that are in their 50s or 60s or 70s. There's some people like in their 90s that have been a part of the subculture since the beginning. And we would not have a goth subculture without those people in previous generations. And the people that are in charge of creating the goth narrative that we see today, like the people behind the goth fashion brands, the people that are in charge of putting out goth music, not necessarily the bands themselves, but like the people who own the record labels and the social media teams and marketing and all of that, those people are in their like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, and have started those companies years ago, since before I was even born. So this whole idea that goth is just for teens, that it's just for young adults, that it's just immature, or you're just trying to dress like this to piss off your parents, you're just rebellious. It's all nonsense to try and invalidate the real experiences that real people, real adults, and everybody has within the subculture. This idea that goth is white, that is just for white people, that is not a space for people of color, and that, you know, the only way to express yourself as a goth is to paint yourself with white makeup, and that it's all about being pale. It is a fucking lie. Not just because people like me exist, you know, black goth people exist. Other people of color exist within the goth movement. Not only as, you know, people that, you know, exist in the subculture, but like if you go back and look at a lot of bands, like a lot of like the original goth 80s bands and stuff, they have goth musicians in them. And a lot of things that we associate with goth comes from so many different cultures from around the world. Like the idea of having black lips, that comes from different tribes in Africa. Black nails, different tribes in Africa. Tattoos, piercings, comes from various indigenous cultures from around the world. Stretch ears, Africa. Scarification, Africa. Like, So this whole idea that goth is just for white people is just absolute nonsense. You know, you shouldn't feel pressure to like bleach your skin or paint yourself white all the time just because you're a personal color and you're interested in participating in the subculture. Like that's not a real thing, okay? You guys should, like, people who say stuff like this, they've never been to a goth club in a major city like Chicago, New York, LA, or even people that are like in countries around the world. Like, it just doesn't make any sense and it's really not true. This idea that in order to have an interest in goth fashion, that everything that you buy has to be only from goth fast fashion companies like Killstar or, you know, whatever, Hot Topic or whatever the hell, is not true. There are lots of independent fashion designers that make and sell and design and sew everything themselves, or they have a small team to do it for them. But you guys are mad about their prices and them charging their actual worth, even though you're paying the same prices for fast fashion. Like, because they aren't hiring your favorite goth influencers to promote their brand. You guys don't recognize them as legit. Or the idea that you can't buy it thrifted or vintage. Okay, so back in like the early 2000s or like the 90s, you were able to find things like slip dresses and like Trip and all these other, you know, original goth brands and staples back then, because a lot of people are just like getting rid of their stuff. But nowadays it's pretty basic. You don't have to only buy like goth fashion items in order to have a goth fashion sense. A lot of things you can find at regular stores and add accessories to it and make it goth and make it your own style. You don't have to treat it like it's a costume or a uniform that you buy. Like, you can mix and match stuff. But also, I feel like a lot of the content creators that promote the idea of DIY goth subculture or DIY fashion or anything like that, they aren't really addressing the needs of people that are asking these questions or have these concerns. A lot of people are disabled, a lot of people are plus size, a lot of people live in rural communities where they don't have access to any thrift stores or vintage shops. And even when they do, a lot of the stuff is pretty ugly and there's nothing you could do to make it look cool. I've seen people being able to like dye the fabric black, drape it, add safety pins, add patches and stuff. But if somebody wants something from like Disturbia or Killstar or whatever, and you're telling them to take an ugly ass floral grandma dress and just put a fishnet top under it and add some safety pins to it to make it interesting in texture rather than style, and then just do your accessories and makeup to match to make it look goth, people aren't gonna want that shit, respectfully. And I can see why people feel like they can't find what they need to find, because a lot of people in the DIY scene who preach DIY goth clothing, they aren't teaching you guys how to sew. They aren't teaching you guys how to design. They aren't teaching you guys a lot of technical art skills that you need to make the things that you actually want to see. So I can see why people are frustrated. I'm not buying into the propaganda of, oh, the scene is dead, there's no new goth bands. There are new goth bands popping up every single day. I see lots of people promoting their music on TikTok every single day. So you guys just have to look for them. My friend has a podcast called Cemetery Confessions where they review goth bands on their podcast. They're like one of the only goth podcasts that I really know about, and they're pretty good. You guys should check them out. And they do review like new upcoming goth bands and evaluate whether or not they think they're goth or whether or not it's comparable to the original 80s sound. So you guys should check them out if you're interested in learning about new music and such. So there's a conversation that I saw someone having recently about how black alternative men in particular get on the internet and complain that all the black goth girls only date white guys and nobody's checking for them. And it's like, that may be true for like very specific individuals, but most likely what's happening is that, similar to the argument of, oh, black girls aren't checking for me because I'm nerdy and I like anime, is that you guys are the dustiest, crustiest, fuggliest people ever. You're deadbeat dads. You have substance abuse issues. Like, you have all these different things going on where there's something actually wrong with you and nobody wants you specifically. Or you're chasing after the baddies and you're a brokey and you can't keep up with their lifestyle. And even if those people were dating a black man, even if those people were single,
ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
it would never be you. Okay, it would never be you. Because like the black goth girls that I personally know that have dated white men, those men have money. Those men have money. Those men are spoiling the girls. Okay, like those men are buying them their demonias, their pleasers, their, whatever it is they like, and actually treating them right. And you guys aren't. That's not the case for everybody, but I'm just saying, like, in general, a lot of times when black men in particular get on the internet and complain that black women don't want them because they're nerdy or because they're alternative, it's because there's something actually wrong with them. Like, they're the known town creep. They've been kicked out of several venues. There's been several call out posts made about them on Facebook, tagging them, leaking like private DM conversations and problematic tendencies. Like, people don't not like you because you're black and because you're goth, because you're alternative, because you're nerdy, because you like anime. It's because you're crusty and there's something actually wrong with you. Okay? It's not true. I'm personally a black alternative person, and I have been in a relationship with another black alternative person for over 10 years. And I was in a relationship with another black goth person when I was in high school. So this whole idea that black girls aren't checking for you because you're goth and that you can't find other black goth women, I'm just not buying it. Because you guys gotta get on the internet and make these rants. The internet is a search engine and you can find them. There's so many different hashtags. Black goth girl, black alternative girl, POC goth. Like, we're everywhere if you want to find us, but you guys don't want to actually put effort into courting us. And when we find guys that put effort into actually courting us and treat us well and right, they don't want me because I'm black. And it's not true. Like, you guys are just lame. I'm sorry, but it is the truth. Okay, so this is kind of sort of true, but not. The idea that the goth scene is dying. There have legitimately been a lot of well-known goth clubs that have shut down over the years. Not just in America, but literally worldwide. I remember, like, in 2020 in particular, it was like, this goth club in Brazil shut down, this goth club in Russia shut down, this goth club in London, this goth club here, there, and there. Shut down, because they could not survive the pandemic. They were forced to sell. Gentrification happened, and just all these other issues. So goth clubs have legitimately been shrinking in capacity over the years. And a lot of goth content creators from like the early 2000s and a lot of independent goth brands have stopped posting content, have stopped being in operation. But like the scene as a whole There's baby bats everywhere. I see them on TikTok, I see them on Instagram, I see them on Facebook. I see all these different newer generation of people that are interested in the goth subculture. So I don't think it's dying in the sense that people are losing interest in it, but like the club scene is shrinking, and the club scene has changed a lot over the years, regardless of if you're goth or not. I've seen a lot of people who go to the normie clubs complain about club culture, how they go out and nobody dances, and how the clubs focus on sections and VIPs and all that other stuff that I know nothing about. Club culture has definitely shifted and changed over the years, but there's new goth bands, there's new people involved in it every day, so kind of sort of true, kind of sort of not, depending on how you look at it. The idea that a lot of the major goth influencers specifically are the spokespeople for the subculture and are accurate representation of goth people as a whole is not true. Like, I personally have blocked a lot of the major goth influencers over the years because of how problematic they were over time. Like, I used to love Adore Bat Brat, but as soon as she started posting stuff showing her being racist and classist and all that other stuff, I blocked her on everything. I used to love Toxic Tears channel, but as soon as she made that video of her crying because she couldn't afford a bigger house after the internet had helped her rent this fucking house, after she got kicked out of her first house and was forced to live in her dad's attic and was getting sick, and she finally got a new house, and in a couple of months she's like, oh, people are discriminating against me because I'm goth, and like I wanted to buy a bigger house, but I can't buy a bigger house now because they're discriminating against me. Like, I blocked her, okay? That girl is Black Friday. She has various things that are problematic about her. But the thing that really was like cringe for me is when one of those colonizers died. Was it Prince Philip or something? And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad to see him go. He was like a granddad to me. And all the people from around the world, like England, like not England, but Ireland, India, different countries in Africa, were just talking about how he personally contributed to colonizing their land and all the loss and stuff. She gonna get online and cry about how that was like a granddad to her. She's not even from the UK. Like, she
Happy. She doesn't even go here.
She's from some island, like the Netherlands or something. Like, girl, what are you doing? I can't do it. But yeah, like, I have personally blocked a lot of the major goth influencers because, like, what are y'all doing? What the fuck? And it's like, they almost never talk about new goth bands. They almost never show you guys how to DIY things. They're only there to promote goth fast fashion, goth home decor, and like to sell you this lifestyle that is contributing to people having something called goth dysmorphia. Even though the propaganda that I'm not buying as a goth is the idea of goth dysmorphia, which is similar to body dysmorphia, where people feel like they're not goth enough no matter how much they change their appearance, no matter how many tattoos, no matter how many piercings, no matter how much they dye their hair or style it, how many accessories they get, or whatever, to try and make themselves look as visibly alternative as possible to signal to other alternative people that they too are alternative. They feel like they're not enough because, we have people who are major goth influencers who seem to have this perfect goth lifestyle that allows them to dress 100% goth 100% of the time, even when they're in their loungewear, even when they're in pajamas. Even their house, even their job, even their car, like everything about them is perfectly goth. And it's contributing to people feel like they're not goth enough or they don't look alternative enough because they don't look like their favorite goth influencers. I don't think that goth dysmorphia is real. I think that is something that has been calculated by major goth influencers and major goth fashion companies who promote them to make you guys think that you're not good enough and that you're not alternative enough, that you're not visible enough, so that you guys can continue to buy their stuff to make you feel like you could finally fit in and you could finally be a part of the club, that you could finally be goth enough. And there's literally no such thing. This idea that goth isn't a safe space for multiple religious beliefs, a lot of people think that if you're goth, that means that you're either atheist or pagan or spiritual in some way, shape, or form, and that is not a safe space for people who are Christian, who are Muslim, who are Jewish, or people who share a whole lot of different faiths. And that's not true. There are goth bans in literally almost every language in the world: English, Spanish, French, like so many different languages, so many different cultures. There's literally a genre of goth music called Christian goth. So this whole idea that you can't be religious and goth at the same time is just not true. The idea that goth people are somehow evil and wish people harm and they just want to scare people, it's not true. There are legitimately some people who their whole thing is all about trying to scare people. Their whole thing is all about, just like trying to shock people. Like, there are people whose whole thing revolves around like shock value. But most people, they just want to express themselves in peace and not have to worry about whether or not other people approve of what they're doing. There are some people who are legitimately evil and have bad intentions and think that the goth subculture is a safe space for them to exist. But I promise you that most goth people make it clear, like crystal clear, that this is not a safe space for bigots. This is not a safe space for Nazis. This is not a safe space for conservatives. This is not a safe space for people who wish other people harm in any way, shape, or form. And that this is a safe space for people of all walks of life, different religious beliefs, different sexualities, and everything. So you're not welcome into our space if you seek to harm people. So this whole idea that goth is evil is just crazy to me. Like, people get banned because they're problematic in some way, because they're harassing people and everything. People get shunned from the goth community. Goth people are very adamant about, this is not a safe space for bigots. This is not a safe space for conservatives. There is no such thing as a conservative goth. There's no such thing as a Nazi goth. Like, you are not welcome in our space. You cannot hide here. We will not, protect you from repercussions of your own actions. Like, this isn't the place for you. The idea that being goth makes you immature, makes you childish, makes you unprofessional in any way, shape, or form just for existing in this space. Now, depending on the type of job you have, you do have to use discernment. Like, I've posted various vlogs on this channel of me going to work, coming from an interview or whatever, and you guys see the way that I look. And you may notice that, like, if I posted videos and get ready with me to go to a job interview, and I say that job interview is for a treatment coordinator at a dental office, versus if I say, get ready with me to go to work as a brand ambassador to go get free samples at Whole Foods, or go be a part of the customer experience at McCormick place, that those looks are completely different based on the environment that I'm in. And I just wouldn't dress the way that I dress in my normal life to go into certain environments, and you do need to use discernment. But the idea that you existing as a goth somehow makes you unprofessional, like you owe the world professionalism 24/7, regardless of if you're at work or not, or if your work environment is the proper place for certain things. I just think it's propaganda that just needs to die. It's not true. Corp goth looks. So I feel like Corp goth isn't real in a sense of it's not universal. Like what may be acceptable in one workplace is not acceptable in another workplace, and is not universally acceptable across all industries. And I also feel like it's more socially acceptable for you to be goth, for you to be alternative, if you are white. Specifically, a young, skinny white girl. Like, it's more socially acceptable for you to be alternative if you are like a young, skinny white girl. But it's not always socially acceptable for everyone, depending on the area that you live in. Now, I live in Chicago, and I have lived in Maryland. And when I lived in Maryland, I worked in like the DMV area, like Virginia, Maryland, DC, like that whole thing. And I noticed that people in the DMV area are more closed minded. They have a lot of outdated beliefs. They have a lot of misconceptions about a lot of different things. And they are less accepting of alternative people, and they have a lot of ignorant beliefs. Like when I had green hair and I lived in Maryland and I worked different jobs, people would be like, ew, why is your hair green? Like, why did you do that to yourself? Like, and it wasn't just a one-off thing, it would be like an everyday experience. Versus me living in Chicago, and specifically living on the north side of Chicago near Boys Town area, where there are more alternative people. It's like, it depends on the area that you're in, is what I'm saying. The idea that goth is just a phase that you grow out of, and that, it's just something for kids. There are some people that have a genuine love for the goth subculture, a genuine love for the music, the style, and everything, who goth really is just a phase for them. And then they move on to other things, and that is totally fine. But a lot of people who treat goth as a phase are just doing it because it's trendy, because it's popular, because they're hoping to get some type of clout from it. And when they don't, and when it becomes inconvenient for them, they go back into, whatever is more socially acceptable. So those are real things. But the idea that most goth people is just a phase that you grow out of is just not true. So most people who develop a taste for music by the time they're teenagers, that's the type of music you're gonna like for the rest of your life. Most people don't switch up like that. Like, you can add on to the music you like. You can expand, you can broaden your horizons. And of course, newer music is gonna be created each and every day that we're gonna be, introduced to. But this whole idea that it's just a phase that you'll grow out of, it's like, I'm in my 30s, and there are people that I'm related to that are still waiting for me to grow out of this phase. I know goth people in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, and their families are still waiting for them to grow out of this phase, and they have cultivated a whole identity around being goth. Like, they're goth DJs, they own goth related businesses, goth clubs, they're tattoo artists, they're piercers, they're They own like goth boutiques and such, like, so it just doesn't make any sense. I feel like it's just a way to invalidate people's experiences and try and like belittle them and such. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. I'm not falling for the propaganda. The idea that you should ungoth yourself for friends, family, or significant other, make them more comfortable with your presence. Honestly, I feel like acceptance is a huge thing in the goth community, and that's a different conversation for a different video. But you shouldn't have to change who you are to be respected or to be accepted or validated by the people that you surround yourself with. Like, you shouldn't have to worry about that specifically. Okay, so when you're the odd one out, people expect you to conform to whatever is best for the group, regardless of what actually works for you individually. So a lot of times when I was younger, I don't surround myself with people like this now, but a lot of times when I was younger, I noticed that when I was in friend groups and I was the only goth person in the friend group, people would expect me to ungoth myself to make the friend group more comfortable. There were people that I was friends with who would call me 5 minutes, who would ask me to hang out with them, and then I would go and hang out with them, and then they'd be like, ew, you dress like that? For real? I thought that was something that you were doing for the internet. I thought that you only dress like that because the photographers were making you dress that way for your modeling thing. Or I thought that you were only dressing like that for, you know, like the goth clubs and stuff. I didn't know you were gonna look like this today. Like, you don't have normal clothes? Oh my gosh, it wouldn't kill you to just put on a t-shirt and jeans? Like, first of all, I have not owned like a fucking pair of jeans in over 10 years. I got rid of all my jeans when I was like 21, 22, because I hated jeans growing up. I know that jeans have changed a lot over the years, but I'm just not interested in having them. And people know that about me. When people would ask me to hang out with them, okay, so first of all, if you want to hang out with me and you know that I'm an alternative person, and you know the way I dress and the way I look and everything, why would you invite me to be around people that you know are not welcoming, accepting, or understanding of alternative people, to the point where they're gonna be rude to me and whatever, and then text me later after the fact and be like, oh, my friends didn't like the way that you dress, they were complaining about this, they were complaining about that, and next time we hang out, then you need to do this and you need to do that in order to like fit in more with the group and make people more comfortable. Like, don't invite me to hang around those fucking people if they're gonna act like that, and if you're gonna act like that to begin with. So I'm not falling for this propaganda that if you're goth, you need to do whatever you can to like make other people more comfortable being around you, because in their eyes, like, it's bad enough that you're goth. You really need to dress like that all the time? Like, I'm not gonna hang around people who act like that. I'm just not gonna be bothered. That goth is kink. That goth and kink culture are one and the same thing. Now, goth does take a lot from, you know, kink culture, you know, like the chokers, the fishnets, the pleasers. That all comes from kink and, you know, sex workers and such. That is a valid thing. But me existing as a goth person does not mean that I personally got up and got myself ready today thinking, oh my gosh, you know what men love? They love goth girls. If I want to get attention from a man, then I need to dress like a goth girl because I know that that's their favorite porn category. Like, that is not my thought process as I'm getting ready. So for you guys to over sexualize goth women in particular, especially goth black women, it's just really disgusting, and I'm just over it. So if you act like that, prepare to get cussed out, because I'm not about to keep explaining this to people. The idea, I've seen so many conversations on the internet of people saying, how come all the goth people look the same? Everybody's wearing the same clothes, everybody has the same look, everybody has the same style, whatever. You guys are not following alternative people of color, and you're not following everyday people. You're just following your favorite goth alternative influencers, and you're complaining about all of them looking the same, and they don't represent everyone as a whole because it's way too diverse. So you need to diversify your content if you think that all alternative people look the same, because we don't. Yeah, that being goth is depressing, and that all goth people are depressed, and that we just wear all black to be dramatic, depressed people, because we want the world to know that we're in agony. There really are legitimately some goth people who suffer from depression, but they're not depressed because they're goth. If anything, being goth makes them happy because they get to express themselves and everything. So this whole idea that, oh, you're only depressed because you're goth, or that if you're a goth you're depressed, it just seems like a way to like stigmatize real mental health issues. The idea that being goth makes you a bad person, like you're up to no good. I think that this comes from like the satanic panic in like the 80s or whatever, when all these cults were like doing messed up things to people, and you know, serial killers and all that stuff is happening. So they're looking for people who look different to try and be like, yeah, that person looks different, so there has to be something off about them. It's not true. Goth people are some of the nicest people I've ever met. One time I went out to a goth club, and this was years ago, and I complimented a girl on the necklace that she was wearing. She took the necklace off from her neck and put it around my neck and said, you can have it. And I was like, girl, what? No, like, this is yours. I just thought it was cute. I didn't expect you to give it to me. She's like, it's totally fine. I'll just buy another one. They were only like $3 on eBay. If you like it, you can have it. I never saw that girl again in my life, but like, I remember that moment. And there's so many different interactions that I've had with people over the years where people are just so nice, so sweet, so welcoming, so accommodating, and really act as like a community. So this idea that goth is not political debate that keeps happening is not true. Like, it is a post-punk movement. What do y'all think that alternative is alternative to? It's alternative to the mainstream, and the mainstream is oppressive. So we're anti-oppression, we're anti-white supremacy, we're anti-colonialism, we're anti-bigot, anti-homophobia, anti-transphobia, anti-racism, anti all the things that make you icky and gross. We're anti-fitting in, we're anti-conforming. Like, what do you think that is? Like, that is political. It is not just fashion. This idea that if you identify as goth, that you can only wear goth clothes and goth makeup and only like goth things, otherwise you're a poser, is a fucking lie. And it feels like something that was started by goth fashion companies and goth capitalism to convince you guys to buy things that you don't actually want, just to try and fit in and just to avoid being called a poser by people who are posers themselves. Like, the only people we gatekeep the subculture from are bigots. Like, there's no such thing as a conservative goth. There's no such thing as a Trump supporter goth. Those people are posers. Okay? This idea that you have to dress extreme all the time in order to be valid in your goth identity is not true. It's okay to wear other things that aren't goth. It's okay to like other things that aren't goth. In fact, it makes you a more interesting and more well-rounded person. And that's what, being alternative is all about. It's about embracing what makes you unique and expressing it and encouraging other people to do the same. It's not about trying to fit in with other alternative people. Like, that's just conformity but rebranded. So it's just not true. This idea that in order to be goth, you have to have like a goth job or have a job that supports your goth identity in order to be legit is not fucking true. There's so many people who identify as goth and they work in real estate. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're dentists, they are property managers, landlords, they work normal regular people jobs. Like, they're teachers and just like so many different things. You don't have to only be a tattoo artist, a piercer, own a goth brand, or be a goth influencer in order to be legit. Like, it's just not true. The idea that if you are goth and you're an artist, that everything that you create has to be goth is not true. And it doesn't make you any less goth if you like things that aren't perfectly goth or whatever. It just makes you a more interesting and well-rounded person. Okay, so this idea of men who try to get with a goth girl with the attempt to ungoth her as some sort of test, some type of bet, some type of challenge, and then get mad when we don't want to be manipulated, when we don't want to be abused, and we aren't falling for the propaganda. And, we aren't falling for the trap that, you basically want us to be people pleasers and such. Like, go be with a basic girl if you like basic girls. Don't come over here trying to get with a goth girl and everything's all fun and games until it's time to meet your parents, until it's time to meet your friends, until it's time to go to a work event, until it's time to run some errands, go to the store, or whatever. Like stay over there with that. It's just so icky. They have goth subgenres or like mini goth subjects. So in the early 2000s, there was this trend where there were a lot of these like personality quizzes that are like, what type of goth are you? And you would take the quiz and it would tell you if you were a romantic goth, trad goth, punk goth, Victorian, or whatever. You don't have to stick to those mini sub genres and plots. Like, you could dress as a goth Lolita one day and a punk the next, a Victorian the next, and then wear like a t-shirt and jeans the next day. Like, you don't have, like, nobody introduces themselves like that. Like, oh, what type of goth are you? Like, nobody does that in real life. Like, that was just something to like steal your information in the early 2000s, but that's not actually based on any real thing in particular. Okay, so the idea that all goth things have to be cheaply made and poor quality because it's costumey and considered not real is just BS. Like, for years, there was like no such thing as goth lipstick. Like, you would only see goth lipstick in around Halloween time or like beauty supply stores. But like, for a long time, if I wanted to have black lipstick, then I just had to use lip liner and chapstick. And if I wanted it to last longer, then I have to use a liquid liner and chapstick so that it wouldn't crack or anything. And now there's all these different brands that have goth lipstick, and guess what? It sells and people buy it. So if you want to cater to goth people, it doesn't have to be these awful cheaply made things. Like, you can make things that are good quality and people would buy it, people would appreciate it. This idea that If you have curly or kinky hair that it doesn't fit into a goth aesthetic, is a fucking lie, okay? I thoroughly believe that teased hair is just white people's attempt at afros. And if you already have curly, kinky hair and you want to achieve the teased hair look, you do not have to blow dry, straighten, and tease your hair to get that look. If your hair already is like gravity defying, then all you have to do is a twist out or braid out. There's various different methods for you to like stretch your hair. Like, you don't have to do what they do in order to achieve that look and to get the aesthetic. Like, you can just work with your natural hair. Or the idea that natural hairstyles or protective styles aren't goth unless they're seen on a white person. Like, if a white girl wears colorful French braids, then it's like, cool, she's going to a rave, she's having fun, whatever. But if a black person does it, then it's ghetto, it's unprofessional, it's whatever. Like, no, you're just as valid in your goth identity as other people in your own culture. The ankh is a commonly used symbol within goth subculture, but I feel like a lot of people just do it because it's trendy and people don't actually look into ancient Egyptian mythology to like learn about what the ankh is and what it represents or anything, and to see if it's even appropriate for people to wear the way that they do. I don't know who started the rumor that goths defrost into hippies in the summertime because it's too hot for all the layers and such, but I'm not doing that shit. I like wearing corsets occasionally, but I'm not waist training. I'm not putting on a faja every day and tightening up. Like, I'm not doing tight lacing and stuff. Like, I wear corsets because it's cute, because it's fun, because, you know, it matches it with my outfit and such. I don't really care to do the whole waist training thing. And I'm not gonna force myself to do waist training because every time I put on a corset, you guys are like, if you're serious about wearing corsets, then you would do waist training. No, I'm not serious about wearing corsets. In fact, I'm completely unserious about it. And I'm only going to wear them occasionally, and I'm not going to do waist training, tight lacing, and all of that. Like, I don't want to do it. Does it make me any less valid when I'm wearing a corset because I don't want to do tight lacing? Taxidermy bats and other endangered animals. There is no such thing as ethical taxidermy when it comes to endangered animals, especially when you guys are looking for very specific species of bats. Nobody is finding dead, perfectly preserved bats just lying around, perfectly posed for your consumption to fit into your aesthetic. Like, please do not buy taxidermy bats. Like, there's no way to ethically get them. You are contributing to the hunting of an endangered species for an aesthetic. And there's so many talented artists out there that make bats, that make faux taxidermy art out of crochet, out of resin, and all these other things that you guys don't have to do that. Goth dysmorphia. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm gonna say this and it's gonna ruffle some feathers, but I have to. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, but there's no such thing as goth or alternative dysmorphia. You guys are just paying too much attention to goth and alternative influencers and allowing them to make you feel like you're not good enough or like you're less than, and you need to like broaden your horizons and branch out into other things and dive more into your actual interests and what makes you unique, and not try to like force yourself into a perfectly goth label, a perfectly goth aesthetic. Like, it's not a costume, it's not a uniform. It's supposed to be a place where people of all walks of life can feel welcome and we're all united for our collective love of the music and our collective values as a subculture. It's not meant to be like a place where it's made to make you feel like if you're not rich, if you don't live in a mansion, if you can't afford to have this perfectly curated goth aesthetic lifestyle, if you don't have the perfect goth job, goth career, goth look, or whatever the hell, that you're not a legitimate person, that is a lie curated by goth influencers and the companies that hire you to make you feel less than, to make you buy more stuff. That is not a real thing that you guys need to actually be concerned about. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I don't know who started this rumor that got this anti-sex work. Like, a lot of the founders of the subculture were sex workers. We would not have the culture that we have today without sex workers. Like, you can be anti-human trafficking, but this whole idea of being anti-sex work, like, as many people in the goth subculture that are dominatrix, madams, and such, like, we are not anti-sex workers, okay? I don't know who started that. It's not real. Clean goth aesthetic. So, goth people, like, our aesthetic isn't meant to clash with the standards. Like, it's meant to be in direct opposition to everyone being normal and basic and looking all the same. So this whole idea of clean goth aesthetic, I'm sorry, but that's not real. Like, you just put on mascara and chapstick. That's not, girl, no. I'm sorry if that makes me sound like I'm gatekeeping goth makeup and goth aesthetic or whatever, but clean goth makeup, that's not real. I refuse to believe that's a thing. That you can be a naturally alternative looking person. Those people are just pale as fuck white people with dark hair, and that's it. The naturally alt aesthetic that everybody's chasing is literally being a translucent white girl with dark hair under high exposure lights and a black and white filter. That's it. That black is depressing and that it can't be anybody's happy color, and that people are lying about liking the color black, and that people only wear black because they're insecure and unhappy and all these other things. That's just you projecting. That's not reflective of me. I don't get where that comes from. Halloween is just for fall. Halloween is when I say it is, okay? And I say Halloween is today and every day, 365, okay? I'm going to enjoy the things that I enjoy. Just because you don't feel comfortable enjoying the things that you enjoy, unless it's socially acceptable, doesn't mean that I'm gonna do that. Root of goth isn't real. But yeah, like, those are my hot takes and goth propaganda that I'm not falling for. Alright, so I'll see you guys when I get done putting on my eyeliner and lipstick, and we'll see you later. Bye. Okay, so those are the propagandas that I'm not falling for as a goth person. I gotta go. So my hair is still drying, so I'm not gonna take it down yet, but you guys know what my hair looks like when I take down my twist out. That's pretty much what I'm doing today. And I'm gonna change my shirt into like a black dress so I can look nice and cute to hang out with my friend today. And yeah, happy summer solstice. Hope you guys are enjoying. You know, be safe in this heat wave. Stay hydrated. Don't start your day with coffee. That's what they were saying. Also, another goth propaganda that I'm not falling for is that you have to be goth in a way that people who aren't goth are going to accept. Like, I've had so many people say to me over the years, like, well, you can be goth, but like in a girly way. You can be goth, but like not all goth people dress goth, and I know somebody that's goth and they don't dress goth, so you can do that. Or you can be goth but like this or like that. And it's like, no, like I'm gonna be myself in myself kind of way, not in your kind of way. Like, what the fuck? Do y'all not know what the word self expression means? It means my self expression, not other people's. So yeah, let me know down below, what type of goth propaganda are you not falling for as a goth? Or if you're alternative and you relate to some of this and you're like, I'm not exactly goth, but I relate to this, like, what is the goth or alternative propaganda that you are personally not falling for? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys later. Bye. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for next time. But I don't get the appeal of Labubu. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it's just everywhere. Like, they kind of look like bunnies because they have bunny ears. But then the face kind of looks like a doll.